Welcome to SSRS Training. In this session, we will be discussing on the principal architecture of SSRS. What are the components of MSBI that support reporting platform? How are reports built and displayed to the front-end users? So what are the components that participate in this SSRS report building? Will be discussed in detail in this session. To begin with, I will show you the data tools of SSRS where we build our reports. So I have Team Foundation server installed along with the MSBI. So I'll be doing through Visual Studio. If the no Team Foundation, you can directly do with data tools. But for 2012, it is Visual Studio. For 2010, it is data tools, and 8 and earlier it was BITS, Business Intelligence Development Studio. Essentially, this is IDE. It is in regular programming language, the developers term this as ID, Integrated Development Environment. Okay, the way you start is you have to go to File, New Project. Here you have an option to select what kind of development you want to do in MSBI. Analysis services, integration services, or reporting services. We select integrate reporting services. Reporting services, is it through Wizard or is it through from scratch? So I select this. Then I say OK. So I get a blank report server project, reporting services project. So you see these three folders here. These are the basic folders that gets created at the moment I start with a blank solution, new solution. So here the first folder contains data connections to the servers. So what is the server you want to connect? SQL server. Yeah, you connect to SQL server. You give server name, server credentials, and database name. Datasets is place where you write queries, SQL queries, to get the data from the data source. So data source is a connection to the database, and dataset is a query which gets data from the data source. And reports, finally you create a report here which uses dataset, which is nothing but an SQL query, and pulls data to represent it using various reporting tools like table, matrix, bar chart, pie chart. Yeah, we have various chart tools which we can use for creating good reports. So this is a three-layered architecture for creating an report. So I'm iterating again. So the first folder contains data sources, which are nothing but data connections. In .NET terminology, it is a data string, connection string. So here we will be specifying the details to what server to connect, what is the server user ID password, what is the database name. That's all I define here. And this is a place where I write a query, SQL query, to fetch data from the data source, and finally create a report to use the data being fetched by this data set or SQL query. Now I'm not creating any report or any data source. I want to show you what all gets created when I start with a blank solution. So there will be a toolbox which will have reporting tools like matrix, pie chart, bar chart. So I am checking out where the toolbox is. Okay, so it is empty right now because I don't have any reports in place. No problem, we'll come to this. So this is with data tools. I'll tell you the actual architecture, the principal architecture of SSRS. How does it work? So when I set up SSRS, I'll have these components being set up on my server, reporting server DB database, which will be on SQL server, a database on SQL server, reporting services, which is a Windows service, then Internet Information Server, IIS website. So these are the three components that gets configured along with SSRS installation. When an end user tries to fetch a report, when he tries to fetch a report, the browser will send that request. This browser will send that request to IIS website. This website will route that request to Windows service, which is nothing but the website. This request will be further processed by there will be to and forth communication happening between server database, and then a response will be sent to the IIS website. This time it is response to end user. So what I want to say here is it follows request response model. SSRS is built on request response model. So assume, see, every report that being developed on SSRS ultimately has to be displayed on browser. So browser will understand only HTML, right? Browser doesn't understand any other programming language. It understands only HTML. Though you develop a website on Java, PHP, .NET, ultimately the code that's gonna render on web browser is HTML. The same logic applies for SSRS reports also. Whatever the technology being used at the backend for developing a report, to fetch the data for a report, to display the data on a report, all the formatting, irrespective of whatever the logic that goes into the SSRS report building, finally, when an end user requests for this report, it should come and render on a browser as a HTML. Yes, so this is what is being done by report services. To do that, the helping data will be stored in reporting server DB. Don't get confused with this DB to the actual data which is coming on the report. This is only the helping database. A report actual data will be coming from the database which it is pointing to. That is different. This database I have put down here has only helping data, supportive data for a report maintenance, report definition data to be precise. So that data, when we request from browser, so end user types the URL, that is nothing but a request, types the URL and press enter. When he hit enter, a request is sent to reporting server via IIS, Internet Information Server. This Internet Information Server will in turn send the data to reporting services, which is a Windows service, and that reporting service will process that request, will fetch the data, will generate the report and send it back to browser in HTML. And that's how end user gets the response. So that's why it is termed as request response model. Now, the way I showed it here is very simple, straightforward representation. Now what I'm going to do is I will show each and every object that is related to this workflow. Every object on the reporting server which is related to this workflow will be shown to you now. So to start with, we will have a database, as I said, for reporting services, right? So that database is nothing but this report server tempdb. These are the two databases which gets created along with port server SSRS installation, and these two databases will be completely utilized only by SSRS. A developer will not be allowed to create any objects in these two databases. These two databases are reserved only for SSRS. See, what does these tables contain? So this reporting server basically contains report definitions, security settings, schedulings, all that policies. Reporting tempdb is for temporary storage of data while a report is getting processed. And the regular databases you see, these databases might be used by SSRS reports to show the data. So that those are different. So here I am talking about only reporting services system databases. Okay. Then Windows service. What is Windows service? So when I install MSBI along with SSRS, so you see this SQL server, this is a default service, Windows service, which supports database. All the databases you see here are being run on this Windows service. If this is down, then entire databases will come down. All the databases will come down. This is a Windows service, backbone of SQL Server. Then SQL Server agent. Then analysis services, supportive browser services, integration services, SSIS, reporting services, SSRS. This is what I am talking about. So this is the reporting services, which is nothing but a Windows service which will be running on my server, which listens to incoming requests through browser and then responds to those requests. This Windows service supports two type of websites. One is report server, other is report manager. So reporting server is where I will have complete list of reports, activities. I will show you these two, report server and report manager, but this is it, this is what is they are used for, and those two are operated from this Windows service. So if I open the browser, I'll show you. So when I configure SSRS, both these websites, both this will get installed on port number 80 of my local host. Report manager. Similarly, I have report server. Report server is the one which I expose to outside world, and report manager is what I use it for internal activities, administrator activities. This is for report manager and this is for report server. So the communication here is to and fro, back and forth. Now to get the picture more clearly, I will create a sample report in SSRS, deploy it to report server and view it using the browser. By that, I will demonstrate end-to-end functionality of report building in SSRS reporting tool. Okay, so that will give you the complete picture of the architecture. So briefly, on and whole, these are the components that are involved in SSRS architecture, in SSRS report building. This is how SSRS handles report building mechanism. Okay, it has its own supportive databases. It has two websites for better management of reports. Two websites for better management of reports. Both can be exposed to outside world, but it is recommended to expose only report server to outside world, and outside world will talk to my report server using request response model. They request from browser and I give response to their request. So this is the simple architecture of SSRS. By building a report, this can be understood even better. To demonstrate, I need some data. So I'll go to AdventureWorks data warehouse. Say I'll take data from product table. Selecting the columns that I want to show on report. So this is what we have to do before we actually build a report. So SSRS is all about 30 to 40%, sometimes 50% of SSRS report building and 50 to 60% SQL writing. Agree or not, you need to have good SQL knowledge for a better SSRS report developer. Okay, so these are the columns I want to go with and create a report. Good. So this is my IDE. I'll start report building here. Okay, so first what I have to do, I have to create a data connection to my database server. So right click on this, add new data source, name this to the database name, localhost. I have authentication. It is always recommended to create a set of credentials and connect through using those credentials to the database server. Always recommended approach. Test the connection. Fine. Okay. Okay, so I have a data connection now. The next thing I have to do is create a shared data set. At the moment I'm not interested in creating shared data sets, because what are the report I will create, inside this report I can write a query. So I'll go with that approach. If I have too many reports which will be using same SQL query, then there is a point to create, there's a need to create shared data set. If I don't have too many reports, if every report has its own specific query, then no need to create shared data sets. But irrespective of the reports or the queries, most of the times the database is gonna be same. That's why first I created a shared data source. I'll directly go and create a report. New report. This is through wizard. No, I don't want with wizard. I'll do it from scratch. Okay, first I'll demonstrate through wizard, then we will do from scratch. Say new report. So this is a default wizard. Here you don't need to have very good knowledge of SQL or reporting service tools of SSRS, but still you can make good report. But this wizard we can only make flat reports. Works DW. So this is a shared data source it is connecting to, because we already created one. If we didn't, then we can create a data source which will be embedded within the report. I have it, shared data source connection. I will use it. Go next. Here, query builder. So here, this is where we actually build a query, write a query to fetch the data. This acts as a data set. I already have a query. Just copy and paste here. Just happen. Say okay. So you have a query in place. Next. So how you want? You want the tabular or a matrix? No. At the moment, tabular. What should go as a group, what should come as a detail, what should be as a page. We'll come to that, all of it. So the color be the group and all others be details. Product name on top. Put alternate key. Okay. Next, the display layout. You want it stepped or blocked? Stepped. Stepped looks good. Include subtotals. Yes. Enable drill down. We'll come to later. Next, color. Formatting of the report. Okay, name this report. AdventureWorks products. Okay, here I have the report. So this is design view. This is design view. So here I'll have two panels. One is the design view and other is preview. So this is where I do the development and this is where I preview it. Preview will show me how my report will look on browser. Okay. So the moment I created report, I will get this design view. So design view will have all these options. So these are called report data. So the first thing is I'll tell you what it is, what each of this is. Built-in fields, these are some of the fields by default provided by SSRS, like user ID, the guy who has logged in, total number of pages, the folder name, information like that. Then I have parameters. So parameters are like giving the filter option to the end user. So you can give end user filter option, what he want to view on the report, what he doesn't want to view on the report. End user can control the display of the report. Then if any images that need to be placed on the report, yes, we can. Data sources, these are data sources which are, so already we have a data source here. Then what is this? So this is shared data source. So the data source you see here is nothing but is a connection to this shared data source. Now double click on this, you see use a shared data source reference. So this is pointing to this shared data source. If we ever want to create one only for this report, then we can create it here. A data source connection, a database connection can be created which will be embedded in this report. And then data set. This is my SQL query. So while I'm running through the wizard, remember I copy pasted a query. That's this query which will fetch me data. So that query has translated to a data set. This same data set I can create here and point the data set from here to here. But I wanted this to be in the report, so I created it as embedded. Use a dataset embedded in my report. So this SQL query will be part of the report. Whereas the data source is used from shared reference. I don't have any shared datasets at the moment. And you see here, these are the columns, sessions for groups. If I have any group, then I will have details here. So I already created a group here. So if you remember, while I'm running through the wizard, I selected color into groups panel and all other into details panel. So that's why a group got created on column color. Now you will see how that group will be shown. Similarly, this is row group. Row wise data will be grouped. Same way I can have column group. Column wise data will be grouped. Now I'm doing the preview of the report. This will take some time, but not too long. It'll come up now. It is taking a little longer than expected, but yeah, please wait me. It will come up now. So you see, this is a report. If you see, the colors are grouped. This is gray, there is only one product. Multicolor, then NA, not applicable. So there are too many products of color black. Then the total, subtotals are appearing on top of every group. Product key addition may not be meaningful. Name, if you have some more space, then this line breaking will not be there. And time, we may not want to show the full along with date. So along with time, we may only want to show the date. Okay, let's do that. Changes, minute changes here itself. So here this sum I don't want to see, is because adding a product key doesn't give any meaning. Then this name I want to extend a little further. See how I am doing? I want to give some good space for this name. Okay, and then date I want to do formatting. Right click, go to text box properties, and here on number select date and date. Okay. Now preview the report again. You see date, I see only date, not with time. Then the count of product key has been eliminated. Then the name has some space, good space, so that it won't break. I can jump to a page. So I have a report in place. Now this report, this is a basic report. This is a basic report that created using a wizard. Here Okay, so that's not how we will create reports going forward. We will be building reports from scratch. That's not how a developer, SSRS developer should be creating reports. But yeah, for demonstration purpose, I have created a report like that. Now, I want to show you toolbox. Toolbox for SSRS. Where is it? Toolbox. You see, these are the different items which are available for report building. So what are the item you see here is Tablix. Nothing but this one. The same way there is matrix, there is an chart, gauge, map. We have different tools, different report tools, or simply they are called report controls. Report control. So here the one I have used here is Tablix, table or Tablix. Okay, this is toolbox. So what all does SSRS contains? SSRS contains report data. Report data is nothing but data sets, means SQL queries, data sources, means connections to server and database, parameters, some built-in fields and images, mainly data sets and parameters. These two are very important in report data, data sets and parameters. Then I have toolbox with different controls which can be used for report building. This is with left panels, report data and toolbox. Then I have canvas. On canvas there is design, where I actually design a report. Report is built here of any size, of any controls. Then I have a preview box, so to see the preview of this. On the right side I have an explorer of shared data sources, shared data sets, reports. It's only an explorer. That's it. These all are what I have in an SSRS report. So now let's see the preview. Fine. Now this report I want to show on browser. I want to access through an URL. For that I have to deploy this report. So my report building is over, report development is over, QA is done. So now this report should be taken into production, means report server, so that end user can view this report. How that is done? So report building is one phase and report deployment in is other phase. Now we'll be see how we report development is done. So before that we have to check report server and report manager configured properly or working properly. Yes, both are working properly. Now we want report server URL. I'll tell you why, but for now copy report server URL. Go to report project, right click on it and click on properties. On the properties, here you have to give that server, that path copied, report server, localhost report server, the one we copied from there, here in the target server URL. This is very important. You have to make sure that you have necessary access to this report server. Once that is established, so first it should be in working condition and then it should be accessible for the current user, the user who is building the reports. Now that it is established that the permission are available, then you come and give that path here in target server URL. Actually there is some description also here. If you see, description is also given, HTTP server name, report server. Then the other things to be noted here is target dataset folder. So the datasets, if there are any, what is the name of the folder that you want to give for these datasets? Then target data save source folder. If there are any shared data sources, what is the folder name you want to give? target report folder. So what is the report folder you want to give? Okay, so for this now I will give as AdventureWorks reports, and data sources, let leave it to be data sources, and data sets, let leave it as data sets only. Report parts, if there are any other report parts, that's it. Say apply. Okay, now the configuration is over. First, report development, target configuration. Once the target configuration is over, then right click on the report solution and say build. Check for any errors. There are no errors. Build is successful. 0 failed, 0 skipped. Once build is successful, then right click and say deploy. This step will put this report on my report server. The moment this report goes on to report server, it can be readily accessible from outside world. So first view it in report manager. This is report manager, which has a URL as reports, is report manager. Here there will be more options to configure it. Okay, I have two folders. Data source. This is where I'll have the data source. This is data source which I created. Share data source, right? Connecting to AdventureWorks local database. And these are the credentials. So this is the data source folder. There is no datasets folder created. It's because I have no shared datasets yet in the solution. We'll create folders only for the ones which has objects in them. Then AdventureWorks reports. So this is a report which I just created, just listed here. So but this is not the option I will give. This is not the path I will give to the external world. This is only for internal management. If I want to give any access permissions, set up any cache, or we will discuss all those advanced concepts. But yeah, so whatever the administrator want to do, he can come and do it here. This is not for external world. Report server. Refresh this page. Yeah. This is dir, I mean directory. This is a directory. So open it. Waiting for localhost. Yeah. So this is a report created on which date, which time. Okay. So this is my report which is just developed and deployed. So open this and verify. This is not the way the report comes up. This is a browser issue. I'm opening it on report manager. Okay, so there won't be these many lines here. It will be only one single line, and then this is a report to the outside world. This is a report to the outside world. So this is a URL that I'll give to external world. So the moment they open this URL, they can see the report. Let's try it out from other browsers. See, this is how it comes. A single line. Single. So this header, we don't have control over this. This is SSRS generated header, and the reports you see are here. Okay. These are my reports. How many pages totally? 13 pages. So 13 page report. This is a link which I will give to the external world. This is connecting to report server. This is fetching data from report server. So the same report replica is there on report manager too. On report manager also we can open and check the report, but this we will keep it for ourselves, and this we will export to external world.